Okay, it looks like we've got a pretty good number, so we might get started. I'm sure there'll be others who will be coming in and joining us as we move along. So good afternoon again, everyone, and welcome to part one of the Australian Circular Economy Hub's Circular Councils webinar series. It's very exciting. We're really excited to see the number of people who have expressed an interest in participating in today's webinar. And we look forward to all of you joining us online. So firstly, today I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're calling in from today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm joining from the land of the Jagera and Turrbal people, and I welcome you to share your location in the chat with us today. So my name is Dr. Nicole Garofano, and I'm the Head of Circular Economy Development at the ACE Hub. The ACE Hub is funded by the Australian Government and also by our sponsors Bingo Industries, Keep Cup and Planet Ark Power. Our mission is to facilitate the transition to a circular economy in Australia by providing a platform of knowledge sharing and collaboration. And today's webinar is just one example of the knowledge sharing, and there's lots of other opportunities for knowledge sharing on our website. So before I get started, some quick housekeeping. So this event is being recorded and it will be available to watch and share from our website, but in 2 weeks' time following the part 2 edition of our series, and I'll talk more on that later. So the next point is if you can select gallery view for today and ensure that you can see the presentations properly by finding view options at the top of your screen and selecting fit to window. It seems that the recent update of Zoom may be changing some of the settings, so this is why we're just reiterating that today. The final 15 minutes are reserved for questions with our panel, but if you can use the Q&A box specifically for your questions, and there's also going to be an upvoting on the questions. So if you find a question that you think, oh, that's a really good one, I hope that gets asked, can you just put a little, click on the little symbol on there to provide your vote so that we can make sure we get to the ones that everybody wants to review. So I think that's the housekeeping for now. We'll get started on the actual content. So my introduction really is to say that Planet Ark has been working with councils for over 25 years. So we know the incredible contribution that councils make to ensuring that our communities function effectively and sustainably. The Circular Council series that we're starting today has been developed because we've actually received quite a high level of interest to the ACE Hub from councils who are keen to embrace circular economy principles. So in our role as transition brokers for the circular economy, we want to support those councils to get started on their journey. And we want to encourage confidence that the circular economy principles can be adopted with success, not without challenge, but also by sharing these valuable experiences from our participants today through these case studies. So we're going to do a quick poll, and we recognise that there are many organisations joining us today outside of council, but we wanted to hear a quick response from those who are from council as to how many of you might be working on a circular economy project. So this is those that might be just starting to discuss. It could be having somebody specifically dedicated to circular economy, but just to get a bit of an idea as to how many are on the pathway to working on circular economy projects. Okay, well, that's great. So we've had 58 to 60 people respond. Okay, so it's almost 60% of the people who are responding have actually got something going. That's an excellent basis for today's presentation. We really hope that the examples that we'll show you in this series will be able to support increased numbers of responses to that. Okay, so a quick couple of notes. I'll just quickly share those results as well. A quick couple of notes on why we're talking about councils. So councils represent 25 million Australians that are located in the 537 council areas across our country. Councils are a really important fabric of the community, as I mentioned earlier, and they deliver some really essential services. The Australian Local Government Association says that collective local government expenditure across Australia is valued at nearly $40 billion. And those dollars are being spent across a range of areas, including resource and facilities management, public infrastructure, planning, community services, and water management. So each of these services, each of these areas consumes products and materials and generates emissions. And of course, the dollars need to be spent. So it's here that I personally feel that the influence of councils has a substantial opportunity to shift to a circular economy. And this is what we're going to learn about today. So for the first part of our two-part series, we'll take a regional approach to circular economy with the Hunter Joint Organisation. So the Hunter Jo represents 10 councils in the Hunter and Central Coast region who have been working with the state government's Sustainability Advantage Organisation and circular economy consultants such as Edge Environment. They've also been working with the business community to really drive significant change in their region. Of those 10 councils, Lake Macquarie will be sharing a single council experience in our next part, in next week's episode. But today we've got Tim Askew, who's the Regional Policy and Program Manager at the Hunter Joint Organisation, who has 12 years of experience working in local council, and Jenny Philippe, who's the Circular Economy and Life Cycle Thinking Lead at Edge Environment. And Jenny and her team have been involved in the development of the Hunter Joint Circular Economy Roadmap, and we'll hear more about that soon. But to get started today, we're actually going to hear from a video recording from Jonathan Wood, who's the Senior Project Officer at Sustainability Advantage. Jonathan can't join us live today, so we caught up with him a few weeks ago to record his representation of working with the Hunter Joint Organisation and the circular economy. So we'll pass it over to Maddie to get that recording started.
My name is Jonathan Wood and I'm Senior Project Officer with the Sustainability Advantage team. Sustainability Advantage is part of Department of Planning, Industry and Environment with the New South Wales Government. And we're working with medium to large organisations to help them on their sustainability journey. We've been around for about 15 years now. We've got about 150 active partners of the program and about 800 networking members. And it's a membership-based program where we offer a fully tailored solution to really get down and understand what are the sustainability priorities for those members and how can we assist them moving forward. Sustainability Advantage's mission is to create and nurture leaders so that we can secure a sustainable New South Wales. As part of that, we focus on 4 pillars. We've got the Sustainable Development Goals, Circular Economy, Nature Positive, which is all about substantiating biodiversity and natural capital, and Beyond Zero Emissions. And obviously these 4 pillars are all heavily interlinked. So in order to achieve net zero emissions, we have to have a circular economy and we have to have a positive relationship with nature. And we have to achieve all of those to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. But I guess our mission is, and our approach to achieving our mission is to develop those long-term relationships with the champions and those critical organisations to really understand where their challenges lie so that we can help them achieve transformation within their own organisation, but also create sectoral transformation so that we can get that happening across the economy. Why did SA support Hunter JO and the goal of adopting CE principles? Sustainability Advantage has got a long history of involvement in circular economy in the Hunter region. We have been assisting organisations do research and development and pilot studies since 2015. And following that, we established a pretty strong relationship with Tim Askew at the Hunter Joint Organisation. One of the first projects we worked on together was a material flow analysis for the region, instigated by Central Coast Council. We did a study to understand where are the material wastes, where are they being generated of the 21 priority waste streams? What are those quantities and where are they actually going? And this information is being used as the basis for future studies, but also projects that we're currently working on. And I guess transition of this magnitude requires intensive collaboration. So forming the facilitators group with the Hunter Joint Organisation, we together work on achieving circular economy in the region, and that requires collaborating with a number of stakeholders across industry, across sectors, to be able to achieve a circular economy in the region. Top 3 learnings. Well, for me, transition takes a long time. We all want it to happen quickly, but for it to happen well, you've got to bring a lot of people along for the ride, and it takes some time to transition. As part of that, as individuals, when we can see what needs to happen and it's not happening as fast as we'd like, it's quite taxing. And so you need to build a support network around you. And so for me, having the support network of the facilitators group, the support network of my colleagues within Sustainability Advantage has been a critical foundation for which to do great work from. And for those who are interested in developing support networks such as this, I highly recommend reading Active Hope by Joanna Macy, which really talks you through how can you achieve long-term systemic change without burning yourself out, which is obviously a critical skill to have in this space. Another learning for me is that we all need to, or I need to, check your ego at the door. The only way that we're going to achieve this type of transformational change is actually to work together, to put our own needs and put our own desires to make them secondary, and actually learn how to compromise with other stakeholders in the room. One of the great books that I've read of late has been More Time to Think by Nancy Klein, and this really instills a concept of the thinking environment, where if you provide that environment which facilitates great thinking by those that you're working with, you will achieve greater outcomes for everybody, and I highly recommend that as well. But my third learning is this is new. Achieving a circular economy is new. This is new internationally, but it's particularly new in Australia. And so my learning is that we're going to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. And if you have that mindset, just getting out there and doing it, and learning as you go has been a great approach, and has resulted in a lot of the outcomes that we've made so far. My top 3 actionable takeaways. Well, I would highly recommend finding your cohort. It takes a group of 5 passionate individuals to change the world. So go out there and find your other 4. This enables you to be in it for the long haul, because it will be a long journey and you'll need the support of your cohort. I also recommend understanding that we're part of the system. We're part of the system that has created the linear economic model that we currently live in. And so we all actually have to sit down and ask ourselves, what's my role in this system? Am I perpetuating this system? What are my blind spots? And to help uncover that, MIT actually run a course called Leading from the Emerging Future, which is a free online course. And I highly recommend going through that process, because it's given me critical skills for understanding what my blind spots are. And finally, I would recommend others, in addition to doing all the strategic work that's required, definitely acting, just taking some steps, getting stuff done, experimenting, being okay to fail, create a culture that it's okay to try new things and to fail, is a fantastic way of propelling us forward in transitions such as this. Thanks very much to Planet Arc for inviting me to be a part of this process. And I'd also like to say good luck to everyone out there in helping transition our system to a circular economy. Looking forward to all the great projects you're working on, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this webinar.
Fantastic way to start our session today. Thanks so much to Jonathan for his inspirational words. And he mentioned a couple of resources in there as well, those in engaging with the chat. We have them there. We'll share them with you before the end of the event here, but we'll also have them on our, when we email out to you the video from today's session. we'll have those resources linked there as well, so you can catch them if you didn't catch them today. But fantastic. So with that platform laid, I'll now pass over to Tim Askew from the Hunter Joint Organisation to give us his version on starting the circular economy in that region. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you, Planet Ark. It's great to be here. I'm just going to get my slide deck up. Hopefully you can see that all nice and clearly there.
Yep, all good. Thanks, Tim.
Fantastic. I'm coming to you from the Awabakal lands in Newcastle, actually not too far from what they call the Tree of Knowledge. And the Tree of Knowledge is a place of gathering, it's a place of knowledge sharing. So today I share with you some of the learnings that Jonathan and I and plenty of others in our facilitators group will talk about. And I'll talk about that today. And it's been an amazing journey just building up those networks and friendships along the way as well. So what we'll cover today is a very quick who and how we went on this journey and some of the exciting things that have happened along the way. We've also some of the challenges and successes we've had, and also a little bit about where we've come from and where we're heading towards. We had probably about 12 months of stumbling around a little bit when we first started this journey. And we've probably had about 18 months of really good focus, which has helped us get through this, this fantastic journey into circular economy. The Hunter region, for those of you who live in this region, you're probably shedding a little tear now seeing the beautiful Nobby's headland there. But we often call our region a Goldilocks region. It's not too big and not too small, but just right sized. And I think that's just right sized also for the circular economy. And it's really the right size because we've got the right kind of economies of scale around population and GDP to have a circular economy functioning regionally, but also we're small enough that you can get that collaboration happening, as Jonathan was talking about. So just for context, we're about 2 hours north of Sydney. For those of you who don't know, we've got about 600,000 people sitting on the coast and 750 in the region. And our friends to the south in Central Coast, we work with them very, very closely in the circular economy space. And as Jonathan said, led some of our projects. And there's another 350,000 people there. So you've got over 1 million people. And I only say that because I think that really helps frame how you can find your place in the circular economy and drive circular economy in your region by having that good base. Who are the Hunter JO? Well, I think Nicole covered off on that pretty well, but we're a local intergovernmental collaboration. We represent the 10 councils in our region. Those 10 councils, we represent those 10 councils in the sphere of leadership, advocacy, and strategy development, and importantly, intergovernmental collaboration. And as I said, we work closely to our friends with the South at Central Coast. But the reason why this is important, as well as to understand this, is that our board of directors is represented by the mayors of each one of these council areas. And when we were setting off on our journey of circular economy, the buy-in at the top was a really important part of our journey. And to take a step back, what triggered all of this was a bit of a crisis situation that happened, which a lot of you will know about, which is China's sword, China stopped taking our waste. That triggered our executive at the Hunter JO to say, look, we think circular economy might be one of the methods we can do to deal with this recycling crisis. And usually changes start with a trigger or a crisis. But we were lucky because it started at the top and it was driven from that executive identifying that opportunity, it allowed us to tick off one of the elements really early on, and which something that you guys should definitely focus on is trying to get that engagement with your executive and get them educated on what the circular economy is and get them involved in leading. Because we were lucky enough for our board to set up a circular economy subcommittee, which is led by one of our very active councils, Lake Macquarie Council. And the chair of our subcommittee is the Mayor of Lake Macquarie. And Lake Macquarie have now gone on to have a circular economy expert in residence there, which is Debbie O'Byrne, who you'll hear about in the coming weeks. And so that was a really good way for us to start, but not everyone's that lucky to start that way. We also, as Jonathan really well articulated, was you really have to go out there and find your partners, your champions, and that's something that, you know, you can't just do this through local government. You really need a broader network of people to help you, take you through and connect and collaborate to try and drive towards that circular economy. And we were very lucky to find some great champions out there from government and university level, and also industry as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, because Jonathan mentioned facilitators group, and I'll show you how we started that. So from the challenges and successes point of view, again, Jonathan really well articulated some of the stuff that we've been dealing with in the region. But from a local government perspective, we really needed initially to understand what is our place in the circular economy. And early on, we decided that facilitating and enabling the region, the local government sector, but also the region more generally, was really important. And that's where we saw our unique role, is to bring that independent ability to facilitate and enable. And realize that we can, at a local government level, we can't control everything. It really involves national, international, state, and all levels of government really to collaborate and to come up with the systems and policy settings to make circular economy work. But local government can do some stuff. We do have big buying power, and we can create a bit of a demand pull in that new marketplace that we call the circular economy. And so that's some of the area that we've been exploring with the group. Obviously, you need some money and resources to kick along your circular economy journey. And it was definitely one of the challenges that we came up against very early in the process, is how do we fund this? We were lucky, again, to have great partners at the New South Wales EPA who allowed us to use some of our better waste recycling funding to explore the circular economy and to deliver a lot of projects that I'll briefly mention today. So it's really good to have that funding base. And the Hunter JO also represents the regional waste group, and the regional waste group also strongly supported us to pursue circular economy projects. And as Jonathan said, he talked about failing, but I don't think we fail. We just build on our learnings as we go. That's probably the way we would categorize that, especially if we're talking to the mayors. We also struggled initially with another one of our challenges, really struggling. Do we go out and develop a strategy on circular economy, or do we do some foundational work, some experimental projects? And as Jonathan said, we leapt into experimental phase, and that was because we had that strong support from the mayors in the subcommittee and from our facilitators group. And as I said, we've built on those foundations now, and we're starting to see some real success building in our region, which I'll go through. Quickly, some of our foundational projects we did were, as Jonathan said, material flow analysis we worked on collaboratively with state government. And we also undertook an ecosystem project, and we tried to undertake a procurement project early on. And we weren't successful in the procurement project because we lacked funding. So we ran into a barrier there where we really needed to try and find more resources to try and make that work. The material flow analysis project in a bit more detail, we looked at, we created this cosmograph, which was pretty cool. But one of the issues we found is the data is static, set back in 2018. And so it gave us a fantastic starting point where we knew which sectors of waste we should focus on to begin our circular analysis and journey. And it rose some particular elements, some particular waste streams to the top that we should focus on first. But it is a static system, and we're now working on a data strategy which will be ongoing and able to be updated. And the other project I mentioned, the foundational project, which has grown and grown, which is the ecosystem project. And this is where the Hunter Central Coast Circular Facilitators Group was imagined. And basically we started thinking about the broader Hunter Central Coast circular ecosystem. So who are all the organizations out there that are currently participating in the circular economy or would like to, or don't even realize that they are? And so we started mapping that. We loaded them all up into a website, which I'll quickly show you in a second. And it gave us a starting point of us imagining what the whole Hunter circular ecosystem might look like. And then we also imagined the Hunter Circular Network, which was organizations that could represent that broader Hunter region and who have an interest in the circular economy. So that's some of the bigger organizations. That's some of the associations, business associations out there. And that group is really good as a sounding board for the ideas that the Hunter Circular facilitators are starting to drive. And of course, as Jonathan mentioned, the Hunter Circular facilitators, that's about 10 of us. And they're the drivers and the doers, I would say, of everything we do in circular economy. They're collaborators, they're connectors across our region. And we find that that is a really key element because they have the drive, they have the time, they've been given permission to have the time to participate in the circular economy and help collaborate, help us deliver that circular economy outcomes that we're trying to achieve for the region and just connect people together. That's a really good starting point. So that's how we imagine our entire ecosystem. We actually mapped it into huntercircular.com.au, which is an interactive database. We also did a report on some of the gaps and opportunities out there, and that's all on our website as well. We also sort of categorize people into community scale and industrial scale circular economy participants. Again, this is an experimental journey that we went on, and we're trying to build on this now into the future. So we did all that foundational work. We were trying to work out where we go next, and that's where our procurement project actually got a few more dollars, so it could go on its way. But we also realized that we needed to think about our strategic direction, and we decided to create a roadmap. And we used that circular economy network to help workshop that. And Jenny's going to take you through a little bit of that journey that we went on, because Edge Environment helped us build this vision and mission. We also got the strategic roadmap into some focus areas. So where do we really want to focus our efforts, and where do our projects align to those focus areas? And we built an implementation program which has time over the top and our focus areas down the side with the projects in the middle. All of this strategic work will be released in the next few weeks, just waiting for our website rebuild to be completed, but it'll be available to everyone to have a look at as in a few weeks' time. And just to finish on where we headed, as I said, building on those foundational projects and using that collaboration across the region, we're diving into finalizing that regional roadmap we just spoke about. We want to start delivering newsletters, events, and workshops. We've already done a few workshops and a few events, but we want to do more in that space. We want to drive the knowledge of the region, and that's looking at data strategies, innovation, living labs, and education programs. We want to assist industry to pivot towards a circular economy. So we're helping them as best we can to be that enabler and that facilitator. And we're also doing our own market change through our circular economy procurement project, which is trying to help our local government areas, our councils, do better in the procurement space. So I'll finish up there. It was a bit of a journey through where the Hunter region has been. It is totally based on leadership, resources, and building those networks, built on the principles of collaboration. And I would say that it's not easy, because we are trying to create a paradigm shift in our economic base, and shifting it to a circular economy is not going to be easy, but through that collaboration and sharing mentality, we will get there. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. Really inspiring. I think I can definitely attest to the fantastic contribution that the ecosystem map has made to understanding who the stakeholders are in your region. It's a fantastic resource. I think everybody needs to get onto the website and check it out. And lots of other opportunities to chat on that a little bit further later. But for now, let's switch over to Jenny Philippe from Edge Environment, who will introduce their contribution into the development of the circular economy strategy and roadmap for the Hunter JO. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Planet Arc, for hosting this today. This is really exciting to be part of the conversation. So what I wanted to do for this session is to share some insights of what we found in the process of collaborating with the Hunter Joint Organization, but also extract what are some of those learnings and how they can be applicable to other councils or joint organizations or associations in local government looking to embrace a circular economy transition. So I guess the starting point, and I feel like we're all repeating the same thing, but it is so important after what Jonathan and Tim shared, like convening your local champions has definitely been a massive enabler for this circular economy roadmap to be coming to fruition. It's all about the people, and it's really about building on what is already happening in your area, whether in your council or region. And even if it's only happening internally in your council, you can start there. You don't have to try to build like external network just yet if you feel that's too hard. Just start with where you are at. Start small, but start. But obviously also don't do this alone. So as Jonathan said, you can have 5 people to help you drive the change. Probably need to build that small team to get started, to bounce ideas of each other, share knowledge, and then themselves can create their own network. And that exponential coverage happens faster than you think. And we really found that in the roadmap creation, with the ability for over 35 people to join us in the workshop and co-design what the region could look like from a circular economy point of view. We sort of started with the facilitator group as workshop 1 to really get everyone's alignment on what they were trying to achieve, what the overall vision would be. So then when they would face back out to the broader system of businesses, startups, non-for-profits, other local government contributors, state level government, there'd be like at least a little bit of a framework or boundaries within which people could come and share their point of view and co-create. And that was also a great way to test out ideas with people in the room. And what was quite exciting in that process was that a lot of ideas were already identified across the board. Some were already happening, and some people could actually make connections between things they were all trying to do separately to then be able to like connect them together and bring funding together or effort and resourcing together. So the power network with a common purpose was definitely a key element. I guess the second key thing that we found was really enabling the Hunter to make some proper advancement and changes was to have clarity on the context, but also the drivers for change. So that catalyst event with the export ban, alongside with the range of other parameters, it's quite a large regional economy. It's the largest in Australia. There's industry diversity. The location of the region is actually really enabling for the circular economy. And that support from the top level in government was also a really key driver. So really understanding the context, and then anchoring the circular economy opportunity in that context. How can circular economy support and align with the challenges that need to be addressed or the opportunities that are emerging in the region was really, really critical. That relevance connection really made a difference. Also, another thing we felt was very important and worked really well in developing the roadmap for the Hunter was to enable circular economy in the strategic framework. So as you come up with your vision and those focus areas, we made sure that we overlaid constantly some circular economy policy levers, and we leveraged the Ellen MacArthur Foundation ones that are well developed and really relevant to here. So if you look at those levers that are horizontal, you know, whether the council can define a vision, and that's exactly what we're doing in that instance. Beyond that, looking at how can they engage the local community. So how can they position themselves as conveners, offer partnerships, raise awareness, build capability. And as you saw in Tim's slides, that's exactly what they're doing. So they're really harnessing the power of their position in the region and I guess taking the agency that they have and the change that they can drive and really drawing on that engagement lever. Urban management is also a key one. So we had a lot of brainstorming around how do we embed circular economy in that space, and the circular procurement initiative that now we're partnering on with the Hunter is emerging from that. So how do we enable government to use their purchasing power in urban management and planning out more circular solution in that space? Economic incentive, absolutely critical. I guess at a council level, there's a range of funding opportunities that can be provided to help local businesses and communities support their circular economy initiatives. And then regulation, probably not as relevant at a council level. It's probably something that's more, that has more impact at a state and federal level, but nonetheless, we sort of looked at how can we then leverage those for the council's benefits to get access to funding and support that circular economy initiative. I guess also as part of that process, what we did was to identify a wide range of potential initiatives that could be put forward. And again, really using the policy levers, so making sure we don't walk away too far from what those council levers could be. And so the ideas would be really aligning to circular economy, but also the agency that the councils had. So after having lots of ideas, then what was really important was to prioritize. And I guess there's multiple lenses you can prioritize initiatives against, but what we agreed on and was really relevant for the audience in the room was to look at how do we make sure that there's local economics and social benefits, including job creation, as well as environmental benefits, whether it's material cycling in the economy or reduction of greenhouse gas emission. So I guess also another key finding in that process was to leverage funding opportunities. Obviously, Tim touched on it. Most of the initiatives is shared with you today were enabled thanks to funding provided at various levels of government. So I'd really encourage everyone on the call to keep abreast of the relevant grants program that are available. Green Industry SA has the Circular Economy Market Development Grant. It's about to be launched. There's the Modernization Grant for Council. New South Wales have the EPA Civil Construction Market Planning Program. There's the Organics Infrastructure and Processing. Victoria has a really great program, so the CBIC, so the Circular Economy Business Innovation Center, they're about to launch the second year of focus on textiles. There's absolutely a lot of opportunities to, if money is an issue, to really leverage that. And I guess the final parting notes that I wanted to share was progress over perfection. As Tim mentioned, just get started, even if it's not perfect. You know, they didn't wait to have the strategy to get some MFA work being done, some ecosystem mapping, and that really were building blocks to then feel more confident about what would be the purpose of that roadmap and really consolidated a range of existing ideas that we're having to structure them a little bit better. So yeah, it's all about getting started, I guess. And to do that, I mean, just looking at how many people on the call and how many people are already doing circular economy, like there's so much inspiration overseas up until recently, and now there's so much traction locally. Like this is just an extract of my LinkedIn feed in the last couple of weeks, and that's, you know, happening all across Australia. So there's definitely an opportunity to connect the dots and get in touch with your peers in other parts of of the country, because you can share, it's a great way to share learnings and challenges and not reinventing the wheel. And that's just a few links to resources and frameworks that you might find useful, which I'm sure will be shared at the end of the webinar. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Oh, there we go. I just got a bit frustrated then my video wasn't clicking on. Thank you so much, Jenny. That was an excellent representation of the work that you've done with the Hunter.jo, and of course the amount of work that you do more broadly across many of the other clients with regards to circular economy. It's really inspiring to see what's unfolding from all of that. So thanks, Tim, for popping your video back on. I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up to the questions that are coming in the room. Tim's already answered a couple of questions. So for those of you who are asking those, you could pop back into the Q&A, and you can see that there's a questions tab, an open question tab, and then there's an answered tab. So thanks, Tim, for addressing those. We've got a question here from Caitlin Phillips Pedalston. Sorry if I've mispronounced your name, Caitlin. What are some of the strategies that you would have used to bring council residents along the circular economy journey?
Probably something for me to answer. Yeah, look, it's a really, really good question. And it's something that at the Hunter Joint Organisation level, we don't directly engage with the community. We engage the community through our member councils. So our member councils have started really embracing circular economy and started putting into their strategies, which means that they're starting to talk to the community about circular economy and the benefits for our region and for Australia. And so I think that conversation has started. From some of the work that we've already done to date, we've created huntercircular.com.au, which is building up a database of people that might be interested in the circular economy. And that's an opportunity for anyone to dive on there, join the mailing list, and the eventual inaugural newsletter will be out soon, which will start talking about what's happening in the Hunter and what some other interesting things happening. And so that'll be another way we can engage. So we'll be able to build that database, and people who are interested at the community scale of changing the circular economy can also be connected into maybe events or workshops that we run into the future. So yeah, we're not directly in that, but it's a really good question, and something that we're almost looking at it from a top-down point of view in a way, and the councils can help us look from a bottom-up approach as well.
Jenny, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, if I can add to that, and I'm sure Debbie would talk to this in her upcoming webinar, but she's been doing some fantastic work engaging high school students and just delivering some awareness pieces and workshops for them to actually leverage their insights on society and turn them into circular solutions. And it's been quite outstanding to see the sort of results that she's getting in that process. But also, I just brought in the chat as well. If you wanted to check out what Circular Economy Victoria is doing, they're absolutely focused on supporting community members to be engaged in the circular economy, and they're connecting the dots with local councils and startup small businesses through innovation programs, as well as, like there's a circular living challenge happening in Victoria where the community is engaging with businesses. So there's lots of things happening in that space.
Yeah, Circular Economy Victoria with Sean Truick, he's just doing some extraordinary work to get programs out and offered to community, to industry, to councils. So that's a great resource. There's lots of other examples as well with regards to how councils are engaging with communities. Some other councils that we're working with are the Hume Council in Victoria, the City of Greater Bendigo. Ballarat just had their launch of their Circular Economy Ballarat program a couple of weeks ago. So lots happening in the Victorian landscape, which is really exciting. So there's some others that we can learn from on that score as well. We had a question from Kerry Elliott from Liverpool City Council just in the chat. Tim, did you bring consultants on board for the material flow analysis?
Yeah, we did need help. Data experts, that's for sure. I think the difficulty with the material flow analysis, one of the questions is where did the data come from? And it came from as many sources as we could possibly find, and it wasn't perfect. And so we needed some consultants to help us dive into extrapolation of data, I guess you call it. So you can find a bit of data which points you in a direction, and they use either waste audits or other techniques to try and estimate what that material level might be. So again, it's that exploration. It pointed us in a direction, and the consultants helped us get there, but it's definitely not perfect. And we're trying to do the next iteration of that now with our data strategy project and CityScan project. So
fantastic. Thanks, Tim. Claire has asked if you could provide some specific examples of success and challenges within the implementation of circular economy in Hunter. I guess you've presented a few of them on your slides there, Tim, but I wondered if there was anything that was a real standout from your, like, you know, a real standout challenge and a real standout success that you might be able to focus in on.
Oh, look, I think the absolute standout is people like networking and collaborating, but it's actually difficult to do, and we're still learning and getting better and better at it, I think. But I think the success has been that we're as Jonathan said, we really tried to get all of us to check egos at the door and to check our you know, our own personal interest at the door, which is not easy because we've got masters who are driving us to deliver certain outcomes, and we're trying to use that that really open communication and collaboration to drive it forward. And I think we've been lucky to get the right people, but also to keep that collaboration happening through that facilitators group. That group of 10 has been really useful. So I think that's probably been the biggest success, is keeping that going and keeping it alive. And then we're constantly looking at ways to improve ourselves. There was obviously some projects, and it was good to deliver some projects, even though they weren't 100% perfect, because obviously mayors want to see successes and stuff that they can open and we'll talk about. So I think that's really important. So you've got to have a couple of wins along the way. So I think, yeah, focus on that collaboration bit, because that's where the real gems are going to flow out of. And it helps to share resources as well.
Yeah, great response. I wondered, for my own question on this one, both for Tim and Jenny, I wondered if there were any specific sectors that you're finding, you know, a higher interest in adopting circular economy where councils are involved. Do either of you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, of course. I'm sure, Tim, you can add to that. Certainly, the built environment, the construction sector, is a critical one. And if you look back at the levers from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, that urban planning area is something that councils have, you know, some control over. The scale of their project is not necessarily connecting with the state level ones, but there's clearly material, like heavy material with high intensity in terms of carbon emissions, that can be looked into. And if you combine that with the waste exports ban, that sort of gives a platform to innovate and find local solutions to remanufacture building products. So suddenly we found the built environment, as well as the food sector, and particularly if you look at the New South Wales latest waste and sustainable materials strategy, organics is a critical area, which obviously councils have a massive power over. So we're seeing emerging a lot of initiatives around revalorizing organics products as well. But Tim, did you have any other perspective on that? Or
I think from our experience, that it depends on who are the active participants in the region at any particular time. So we've got a company called Molycop that's recycling steel into, basically that's their whole business model, and into other steel products using an electric arc furnace, which is a really interesting space. And so we're sort of leaning on our manufacturing roots in that space. So I think the manufacturing sector has got some interest, and we've seen quite a bit of participation from the manufacturing sector. Organics is another one, but I think there's nothing that really stands out to me that they're the industry that are driving things forward. I think where we want to accept all comers because this is a new and emerging area, and we also want to elevate this discussion at some point beyond waste and bring it into looking at circular economy principles as Ellen MacArthur states them, and look at service provision as a replacement for product. So products as a service, so to speak. So yeah, I think all of them are welcome, and there's nothing really that stands out for us in the region.
Great, thanks both. Yeah, it's an interesting, when we look at the PwC report that was released earlier this year and the KPMG report that was released at the end of last year, it's great to see that that those reports obviously are reflecting what's actually being realised in council areas. An interesting question from Paige. So talking about waste incineration or waste to energy, how do we see that as part of the circular economy? If that's being considered in any of your work. I don't know if Jenny, if you're doing any work on that space, or Tim in your area.
An area that we're still trying to understand, but the way we're trying to look at it at the moment is that really sticking to those circular economy principles of keeping materials in use for as long as possible at highest and best use. Now, when you burn certain kinds of waste, are all the materials in there being utilised at their highest and best use? It may be an interim step, but it's not, to me, as an end game. We're not valuing everything in there as much as we possibly could. If you take organics, for instance, and you look at an anaerobic digestion platform, which is creating energy, but what you can do is look at every atom that goes in and every atom that comes out, and trying to valorize all that and create a value for that, whether it's monetary or an environmental benefit. So you're not just creating energy, you're not just creating a digestate, you're actually creating carbon dioxide, which has a value. You're creating heat that has a value. So we need to start thinking like that. And I think that will start changing things towards a more circular system.
Thanks, Tim. Jenny, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, very in line with Tim's take on how to approach that particular opportunity. We're saying that there's already quite a lot to be done higher up in the waste hierarchy. Like, we've not even touched the surface on, avoidance altogether, reuse, refurbishment. Like, there's so many strategies that can be explored before getting into the waste incineration. I feel like when organizations, councils, society sort of reach that zero waste target altogether and have that residual waste where you're like, there's really not much we can do with that one, that's where I feel that potentially can be explored. But I'd really encourage to explore those other higher value creation, which also, create dollar for the economy, create jobs, and really valorize that finite resources that we have, and really shifted how we look at material and waste altogether.
Yeah, great responses. Thanks both. We've got another question. I guess it's leading to your presentation, Tim. The resource recovery guru has asked, what challenges did you find in convincing the executives that were not champions to embrace the circular economy, and what did you do to try and encourage them to participate?
I guess it's just trying to show the value proposition of the circular economy. So it's education. So we ran an executive education program, and look, there's the power of the group as well. So if you can convince enough executives to get behind it, then they tend to lead, and they're enthusiastic leads if they buy into what the circular economy really is. So it's just trying to gather those forces. And we've had examples of some of our local government areas going, well, we probably weren't focusing on circular economy, or focusing on maybe energy and carbon neutrality or carbon negativity for our council. But we see circular economy plays a vital role in achieving that, and that's another way you can engage that executive and say, oh, well, you know, circular economy will deal with the 45% of emissions that are stuck in materials. So let's embrace it that way. So that's probably my job, really, generally speaking, is to try and convince executives on the value of certain things. And so I think, yeah, you try any I almost said trick, any technique you can to do that.
Yeah, great response. Thanks, Tim. Jenny, I think this one might be for you. Steve O'Keefe asks, does the vision of zero waste support or oppose circular economy because of the long-term withdrawal of resources from within the circular economy? So does zero waste support or oppose, do you think?
Look, I don't think it opposes. I feel like there's different ways to put all these new up and coming ways of dealing with waste, right? So I think if the intent is the same, which is like valorizing what we have as much as possible, minimizing how much we need to extract or use in delivering the societal needs that we'll try and, you know, to benefit from, whether you call it zero waste or circular economy doesn't quite matter. I feel like, you know, ultimately, if you achieve no waste, it means that you've done a good job at optimizing what you've used, reusing it, like really addressing that waste hierarchy. I think that's also the challenge. Is there's so many of those movements happening at the moment, and there's been many over the years, and they kind of could confuse people on, you know, which one is best. And it doesn't matter what we call them, as long as the intent is really about that valuing what we have and minimizing the environmental and social impacts of extracting from the planet.
Yeah, great response. Thanks, Jenny. We do have 3 more questions there, but I feel like we're almost with a 2-minute mark, so we probably need to wrap up and just make some final comments. I just wanted to say thank you to Jonathan for his recording that he did with us a few weeks ago, to Tim and Jenny for today's presentation, and for just being so welcoming and you know, encouraging with the questions and your responses. Your presentations are really inspiring, and I hope that what you've presented today is a nice platform from which that other councils can leap from in terms of starting their journey, if not already. Thanks to the audience, you've provided a really great interaction, and again, I hope it's provided those sort of keynotes that you can take away and start those discussions in your own areas, in your own organisations. And as was saying in the chat with Lucy and Jenny, next Friday we'll be hearing from a singular council experience with Lake Macquarie City Council with Debbie O'Byrne. So Debbie is the dedicated circular economy lead at Lake Macquarie Council. We think, and we're happy to be corrected, that she's the only circular economy lead that does not sit under the waste area, shall we say, in the country, and she also has her own budget, which is quite interesting. So if you haven't registered yet, please head along to our What's On website, What's On section of the ACE Hub website. So that's acehub.org.au. And today's recording, as we've said, they'll all be ready to be online, but it'll be after Debbie's presentation next week. So if you keep a lookout, we'll email all those registered today to keep a lookout for those videos in 2 weeks' time. And to find out all of our other exciting events, keep subscribed to our acehub.org.au website, where you can see the case studies that Lucy would have highlighted from today's event, and also other resources. So thank you again for attending today. Before you all log off, it'd be really great if you could stay on for a couple of extra minutes just to complete our survey, which will pop up at the end of the webinar. And we really value your responses, because it helps us to shape what you're interested in for our next events. So thank you again today, and all the best as you continue your journeys towards circularity. And hopefully what we've learned today will provide you with some extra ammunition in your tank to keep going. So happy weekend, everyone. And thanks again, Jenny and Tim and Jonathan.
Thank you, Nicole and Planet Arc.
See
Bye.
you.